starts now.
Chuck Malamut is next about your financial matters.
Can Democrats gain a seat in the House? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. They're voting now in a special House election in Georgia. John Ossoff trying to win what had been a Republican seat.
Look at what's going on in Washington right now. It's not delivering results.
He's from outside the district and getting a lot of support from across the country in what's been the most expensive House race ever.
They put so much money behind him, trying to steal this election.
She voted for Karen Handel, the Republican getting support from President Trump. They're also voting now in South Carolina to fill another vacant House seat. Democrats hope to flip blue. Archie Parnell taking on Republican Ralph Norman. Democrats railed until midnight in the Senate against what they say has been a secretive Republican process writing a bill to replace Obamacare. Senator Cory Booker says the stakes are high and will
affect the lives of tens of millions of Americans.
They want public hearings on the bill. Republicans say all senators will have input before a possible vote next week. Days after North Korea finally sent him back to America unresponsive, college student Donald Warmbier is dead. Fox's John Decker live at the White House.
President Trump is slamming North Korea after the death of Warmbier, released by the communist nation in a coma-like state last week.
It's a brutal regime, and we'll be able to handle it.
Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said the U.S. held North Korea accountable for what he called Warmbier's unjust imprisonment. He also demanded that the country release 3 other Americans it's holding for alleged crimes against the state. Dave?
John, a second jury will deliberate a second day in Cincinnati if a former police officer is guilty of murder in the shooting of a black man at a 2015 traffic stop. Ray Tensing has tearfully testified he feared for his life. The jury at his first trial was deadlocked. Closing arguments are today in Milwaukee, where a black police officer is charged with homicide in the shooting of a black man that set off riots last year. This is Fox News. Fair and balanced.
Summer involves a lot of driving, to camp, to work, to soccer, back home to grab what they forgot, and then back to soccer again. So wouldn't you like to know your car is up for it? Enter Hum by Verizon. Now you can check your car's health from your phone with vehicle diagnostics, drive with more peace of mind thanks to 24/7 emergency assistance, and let the kids stream and game on the go with your car's own Wi-Fi hotspot. Get Hum and get where you're going. Learn more at hum.com. Verizon Wi-Fi available on HumX only. Data usage applies. Coverage not available everywhere. Visit vzw.com for availability.
When you're hiring for a growing business, you don't need lots of candidates. You need the right candidates. You need Indeed.com. With an algorithm that positions your job post where quality candidates are, and screener questions that help you zero in on the best talent. Indeed.com, the site proven through an independent study to deliver 5 times more hires than any other. New users claim your $50 credit for a sponsored job at Indeed.com/credit. Indeed, the world's #1 job site. Terms, conditions, and quality standards apply.
A local family is mourning the loss of a second loved one after a 12-year-old girl died just days after her cousin. Both had been swept out by rip currents as they swam in Belmar. Meanwhile, the body of one of 2 teens who went missing the same day in Atlantic City has been recovered. The electrocution drowning of a Newark girl near a Toms River dock last weekend underscores the reminder about swimming near docks that are wired for electricity. Captain David Rifkin of the Electric Shock Drowning Association with a warning.
100% of the deaths that we have on our list would not have happened had people not been in the water around docks using electricity.
He says if you're swimming, give any unknown dock a wide berth. Stay at least 150 feet away. A 14-year-old boy held police at bay for 3 hours last night in Pleasantville. Officers responded to a home early Monday morning after a report of a teen with a handgun. He refused to come out for hours, but eventually gave up as members of the SWAT team moved in. Will there be a government shutdown this year? Senate President Sweeney says it's possible if Governor Christie doesn't get on board with a new school funding plan. I'm Eric Scott. This is the Town Square News Network.
This is Governor Chris Christie. New Jersey is experiencing an epidemic of heroin and opioid abuse that affects every community in our state. In recent years, overdoses in New Jersey have more than tripled. There have been more deaths from overdoses than from car crashes and gun homicides combined. We have to come together. To everyone suffering in silence, addicts, family, friends, I want you to know, you are not alone. It's time we bring addiction out of the darkness and into the light. If we don't talk about the problem, we won't find a solution. Addiction is a disease. It can be treated. Those in crisis can recover from the downward spiral and regain control of their lives. Don't suffer. Don't wait. Help is within reach. Call 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. Again, call 844-REACH-NJ or visit reachnj.gov. The road to recovery starts now.
Sunshine should dominate the sky for most of the state for most of the day. The exception is going to be along the coast where some thicker clouds could hang on. It's going to be warm, breezy, and humidity levels will be dropping, making things more comfortable today. High temperatures reach the lower to mid-80s this afternoon. Partly to mostly cloudy tonight, lows mid-60s. We'll be in the 80s again tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine. However, an isolated shower is possible tomorrow too. Partly sunny on Thursday, still in the 80s. Humidity will start to creep back in Thursday into Friday. I'm meteorologist Dan Zarrow.
From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame.
I want to congratulate my friend, Harry Hurley.
You're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
6 minutes past the hour, and Chuck Malamut is here, ladies and gentlemen. And this is just, I want to say it's cruel and it's unusual. Not that Chuck is here, that's a beautiful thing. But Kirk Conover, we're not going to begin the Malamut program for 2 minutes. So this time will not be held against Chuck. But Kirk, before you leave, I would say maybe twice a year, and some years only once a year. Chuck never misses. Now, he's unavoidably detained. He's unable. He's working and unable to be in the studio this morning. And who would believe that I can do this now? I can't even believe it. Delicious. Delicious, Kirk. You were honoring what Chuck had very cleverly even earned in the first place. And the day you brought them, he's not here, so we can't let them go stale.
No. And Chuck's timing is unbelievable. He's not here. There's a batch of oatmeal raisin cookies just for Chuck. But we can't save them until next week.
No. Chewing them now, Chuck.
Good morning, Harry. Good morning, Kirk. So, Harry, I would like you to, on your way home, to maybe stop by the office and drop them off. That would be great.
Well, I would do that for you, but I'm concerned that by the time you would get them, we would want you to have them very, very fresh, not like a day or two old. I can't.
Oh, so in other words, the likelihood.
In other words,
is about there's a 90% probability that the cookies will not even make it to the 10 o'clock hour. Is that what you're saying?
Well, while you're on the air, you can't hear the sound effect, but yeah, they're crunching away as we speak. I mean, they're gonna be gone by 10:06 at the rate it's going.
Well, Kirk, thank you. You delivered on the bet. I appreciate it.
He kept his word.
I can't believe you're not here.
I was going to chat with your wife on Friday, but she looked like she was very busy at her table. But
we'll get you another batch.
Thank you very much.
We'll get you another batch. We want to make sure they're fresh.
All right. Well, we appreciate that.
All right, Chuck.
Chuck, can you hear the crunching? Can you hear it?
I heard the crunching when you took it out of the bag the first time. Yes, Harry.
Okay. I'm just making sure. Kirk, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to see you, my friend.
Have a good show, Chuck.
And they tell Nancy they are delicious. Never heard them crunch so much before, though, Kirk.
Special batch.
Yes, exactly. This portion of Hurley in the Morning presented by Chuck Malamut, the managing director. He leads his group, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, and this program is presented by Chuck from Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this broadcast are those of Chuck and do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast and are subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Kirk, thank you. And Chuck, welcome to the program. Also, Chuck, let me say this on air during your program, and we certainly thanked Morgan Stanley on the occasion of the 10th annual Hurley in the Morning Golf Open. From the two Morgan Stanley foursomes that played in our event, to the incredible contribution that you make every year, Chuck, not only sponsoring a hole, but also donating a sleeve of golf balls for every single golfer. So that was 3 times 117, and you even gave us more than that. So I want to thank you, of course, and also I want to thank your employer, Morgan Stanley, because Morgan Stanley stepped up in year 10 bigger than ever before.
Well, Harry, you're welcome. It was quite an event for sure. The fact that you raised $50,000 is it's unspeakable. What can I say? You've been doing this now for the better part of a decade, and a lot of charities, local charities in particular, benefit by all of your hard work. So you, Margie, your family, all those that work in the event that make it happen, because now it's seamless. It's like clockwork. I mean, your golfers never have to worry. A little disappointed that my partner Mike had an opportunity to come home with a vehicle on the 8th hole, and I think he missed it by 18 inches at a hole-in-one.
That is correct.
But hopefully next year he'll be able to accomplish that feat.
And by the way, it wasn't just 18 inches. It was going directly for the cup. It was not like off to the side and it was going in the wrong direction and just is like 18 inches away, but it would have never had a chance to get in the hole. If that ball could have just turned maybe, who knows, 4 more rotations, something very, very small like that, it's in the cup. It was dead straight. We have the photo to prove it, a Don P. Hurley photo. I know you saw the photo. I need to send it to Mike. I know I showed it to him when he came up, and I recognized him in front of everybody in attendance because it was extraordinary. In 10 years, it was the closest that we've ever come. And that you saw the Jeep, Chuck, this beautiful white 4-door Jeep with the black trim and the black wheel covers and things. Oh, my gosh, bumpers, beautiful. I would have loved, and I will tell you, Charles and Anne-Marie Kane wanted to give that car away. They were looking forward to somebody hitting the hole-in-one, and Mike came so close.
Well, I talked to Charles before you started, and he was grinning ear to ear. He was ready. He goes, I'm ready to give this vehicle away. So close but no cigar, so to speak.
Absolutely. All right, Chuck, give us our market update, which I know is a good one because S&P 500, Dow Jones, industrial averages, both at all-time highs yet again. So even with the Fed action, which I know will be your second point, markets are still, reaching for the stars.
Harry, before we do that, actually, I'd like to just take a step back and offer our condolences to Fred Nichols' families. I got to know Fred at the latter part of his career. After you and Fred did some major battling and became friends, and I think Kirk said it right. Larger than life, truly an amazing individual. Couldn't do enough, within the community, and he's going to be missed. And I agree with you 100%. As they name these buildings, there should be, at a minimum, at least 1, maybe 2 buildings named in Fred's honor and memory.
I think for sure, and I hope they'll do it. They should do it. And if Atlantic City doesn't, shame on them, then Egg Harbor Township should step up. And I know that Senator McCullough is a good man. He'll do the right thing. The school district ought to do something. He made sure that all kinds of other people, even some living, had things named after them. He absolutely deserves it. I mean, if you think about it, he made sure other people had their names on the school buildings in Egg Harbor Township, that he led the campaign to even build those schools so that they could have other people's names put on them. It's just a matter of timing, and somebody needs to step up and do the right thing.
I agree with you. There's no doubt about it.
So we'll go back, Chuck, to your market update.
So, Harry, you think about, what happened last week. We had a lot of noise. The noise level with respect to political headlines just continues to increase, and we saw it again last week. But in spite of that, majority of the markets were pretty quiet. U.S. equity prices were pretty much unchanged, for the week. Treasury yields did fall slightly, and the fact the yield curve, as you look at it, continues to flatten out, which basically means that your short rates are basically at the same levels as your intermediate and your long-term rates. And we've talked about, what happens when a yield curve, goes the other way, becomes inverted, but we'll kind of save that for a moment. But all in all, the dollar weakened, oil prices declined for a fourth consecutive week. But having said that, the S&P was up 0.1%. The Dow Jones was up 0.6%. The Nasdaq was down 0.9%. That kind of was a follow through from that June 9th sell-off in the tech world. But you think about where we are, and clearly there is a discrepancy here. The bond market is saying one thing, and the equity markets are singing a different song. And at the end of the day, in spite of everything that's coming out of Washington, the equity markets continue, to march forward. Let's chat for a minute, Harry, if it's okay with you, to talk about the Fed action from last week.
And I want to do so right after the break. He is Chuck Malamut. I am yours truly, a lowly mayor of the morning, and we will be right back. Please don't go away. Chuck, cliffhanger, you'll be able to share that analysis as soon as we come back.
Love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smokers Haven. With 6 New Jersey locations, Smokers Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like La Aroma de Cuba, Diamond Crown, La Gloria Cubana, Alec Bradley, and over 1,000 other kinds made from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. Become a Smokers Haven Club member for great benefits. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com today.
Do you hate your CPAP? Do you keep your family up with your loud snoring? Dr. DeFelice can help you sleep better. He cured his own sleep apnea and snoring. Visit HamiltonBraces.com to schedule your free consultation and start sleeping better because you deserve it.
Hi, this is Assemblyman Chris Brown. Join me on WPG each month to talk about the issues important to you and our hard-working families in Atlantic County. This is Assemblyman Chris Brown, and now back to my friend Harry Hurley.
Thank you very much, and welcome back. It is it's basically 18 minutes past the hour. You're listening to the official financial advisor, exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut and his team, the Malamut Group, 609-383-2010. The phone number to schedule your appointment to sit down with Chuck or Mike or the team at the Malamut Group so that you learn all about their perfected concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation, and that you can make all the proper plans early as opposed to having a lot of stress later if you delay in preparing. It's like anything. If you get a term paper and you have the whole semester to do the term paper, but you wait until the night before, you're going to be stressed, you're going to be compressed, and it's going to be a problem. If you do it and spread it out and do it properly, it's much more manageable. And I think that's probably an analogy that's fair to say in terms of financial planning. Chuck Malamut is here, and we left you with a cliffhanger, Chuck. Take it back. Time is yours, Chuck.
So, Harry, last week, as everyone had expected, the Fed came in and they did, in fact, increase the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points to 1%. I think, Harry, what we need to think about here, and again, I know that we never spend this hour and we talk about politics, but you always have the ability to kind of bring things back. And I want to say that your comment is, well, this isn't really political, but it is political. Bottom line, we have a fair amount of weakness with respect to inflation. I mean, the Fed was looking at higher inflation. The central bank also thought or said that there is a pretty high probability they're going to have an additional hike as we get into the latter part of this year. So I'm guessing September. At the same time, the Fed also laid out a plan to normalize, get its balance sheet back together. So, I mean, kind of put this in perspective here, Harry. Everyone expected the 25 basis points. So now that target band is sitting, 1 to 1.25%. We've had 4 hikes over the last 2 years, 3 of which have come within the last year. But the day the announcement came, you had weak consumer price inflation, weaker than expected job growth, and workers' wages, virtually unchanged. So, the naysayers are out there basically banging the table and saying, wait a minute, there's really no reason to increase rates. So when you listen to Chairman Yellen's press conference, there was a fair amount of discomfort. You can, as you watched her and as you listened, maybe the Fed is getting a little ahead of the economy by raising rates in an effort to put a little ammo, so to speak, in the gun.
Chuck, I am so happy that you're saying this morning, because as a layperson, without the pedigree that you have, that's how I feel. I feel like they may, I would hope it would be unwittingly, that it would not be some awful political scheme, unwittingly put the brakes on our growth just when we're getting to the point where we might be able to achieve 3% and beyond GDP, which would be a terrible thing to slow down the economy on purpose. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I agree, Harry. And, I think there's a number of analysts that are saying that the Fed is on the path here to increase rates so that they can ultimately, if the economy does in fact slow down, they have the ability to take rates back and reduce them, to give them, so to speak, some bullets in the gun to be able to get the economy back on track. So, I think, Harry, we're kind of in a very, very, I don't want to use the word challenging time, but different time here, because the equity markets are saying one thing and the bond markets are saying something totally different. So the question is, at the end of the day, when you look at the 10-year, which is trading in that 215 level right now, who's right? I mean, the bond market is saying, hey, you better be on the lookout because, things will slow down. We will, in fact, have a recession. And that's evidenced in the way the yield curve is situated right now. In the meantime, the equity markets, continue to make, highs on a daily or weekly basis.
Let me ask you this, Chuck, because for those of us who don't know for sure, do either one of them reflect more currently than the other? Is one more of a leading indicator than the other, or are they even in that accord? Because if one leads the other, then I would submit that's the one that's probably most correct at this time.
Well, they're both leading indicators, and I think they're both treated about the same.
So you can't pick. So that's not a determining factor. But it sure does seem to me these multiple rate increases in the face of the current environment. I realize the markets are just cooking, and we're hitting new highs quite a bit, but would hate to see them overcorrect. You've talked a lot on your program over the past 26 years about, Goldilocks and the three bears and too hot or too cold, and just trying to get it exactly right, room temperature, so that you don't burn, your mouth when you're swallowing the porridge. But I just feel like we're risking, slowing things down at exactly the wrong time, which would be it would be heartbreaking, because this has been a hard slog, as you know, and to get to any level of normalcy in terms of GDP has required a heavy lift. And now you have companies hiring, you have companies giving increases, you have investment, you have people coming from other countries back into this country, you have people expanding on their current projects and so on. And I'd hate to see all that slowed up, or even worse, stopped because of some financial decision that was just going too far.
Well, Harry, the other thing that's happening here is the way the Fed is approaching, their balance sheet. You think about it, their balance sheet is massive at $4.4 trillion. I can't even, Harry, I don't know if I can write a number that large, but that's what their balance sheet looks like. So what they're doing, they're going to pretty much on a monthly basis roll off $6 billion in treasuries and another $4 billion in mortgage backs. And the way they're going to do that is as these bonds are maturing, the Fed is not going to, reinvest, those funds. So it's basically what is being called a roll-off. And those amounts are going to increase each quarter. So what they said is that their upper limit is going to be $30 billion a month for treasuries and $20 billion for mortgage backs for a total of $50 billion. And the program, Janet Yellen did not say when it was going to start, but she did say it's going to start relatively soon. So a lot of strategists and analysts are saying, okay, you got to read the tea leaves, are saying September, October. And then again, that is all based on where we are with respect to the economy.
Do you think, this is a tough one, Chuck. I don't think I've ever asked you this before. And if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. I'll ask and answer the question if you don't want to go here. Do you think there's any chance that the Fed is sabotaging our current administration leading into the midterm elections to try to bring about either regime change or effectuate change in the majority in the Congress? Or is that, am I wearing a tinfoil hat and it's not my favorite Martian? I mean, is that preposterous to think that?
I think, Harry, that might, I'm thinking that might be a bit of a stretch.
But they didn't do this before.
Like you said,
they didn't do it for the last decade.
I won't disagree with you, but I'm going to say that the Fed is looking at all the data that comes across their desks and are making decisions based upon that data. I think the timing, as you say, is somewhat suspicious. But the bottom line is, you think about it. GDP, the anticipation is that we're going to get to around 2% as we get through the rest of this year. We are expecting as we get into 2018 that number is going to increase to 2.5%. You have, again, that fiscal stimulus from the Trump administration and Congress, if we can kind of push that ball forward. But what's happening is you have these downside risks that keep increasing. We're watching again, that debt ceiling debate. I mean, that as Harry, as you know, that got very, very quiet.
Yep.
And don't be at all surprised if it comes back up into the forefront. So
it always gets quiet until we get close. It's just like in the state of New Jersey. I don't know if you may have heard, you may not have heard, because you could have already been at work by then, but Governor Christie called in yesterday and surprised us. And one of the things we talked about was we had a great 20-plus minute interview uninterrupted with Governor Christie. We talked about the budget process because the legislature in New Jersey, notorious for not being able to get anything done until basically June 30th at about 11:59 because that sense of urgency in July 1st is what seems to get them, to make a decision. I absolutely think we're going to have another incredibly heightened political atmosphere at the time of the next deadline at the federal level, no doubt.
So that, in addition to the ongoing discussion dilemma with respect to the potential tax cuts, and we're kind of, I want to say, maybe stuck in the mud here a little bit, and we obviously need some movement because without the tax cuts and without some legitimate healthcare reform, we'll call it, we're not going to grow. I mean, it's very, very evident. I mean, Steve Mnuchin said actually this morning that, he's absolutely convinced that these tax cuts are going to happen and are going to happen sooner than later. But then again, Harry, that's a lot of the political noise that comes out of Washington. The bottom line is, as you mentioned, I think when you and Kirk were chatting earlier this morning, the fact that, a lot of people are getting back to work. There is our unemployment number is, where it truly is anybody's guess. But it seems as if the labor market is tightening for the most part. Last couple months have been a little soft, but overall, we're in a lot better condition than we were, say, 2 to 3 years ago.
Which is why, in fairness to the Fed, they feel comfortable raising interest rates, and they're going in small little increments, Chuck.
Well, they are, Harry. I mean, look, the fact, I think that, everybody gets so terribly focused on the rate hike, when it happens, how often it happens, and for how long does it happen. But I think what got lost here is the fact that what they outlined is that this path with respect to the reduction of their balance sheet. I mean, I think, Harry, that's actually bigger news than than the rate hike itself that was announced. So, starting September, October, it would be anybody's guess. And the fact that you're, initially starting with $10 billion and then you move to 50, over the course of a couple of years, that's a pretty aggressive plan to reduce the balance sheet.
Chuck, do 1 quick minute on this, and we have to get our break in. I know we have to get you out right at 45 minutes past. So what I'll do is I'll throw this out. You'll talk about it on the other side of the break. That way I know we'll stay on time. Dow Jones Industrial Average 21,529. I'll round it up because it's at 0.99. NASDAQ 6,239. S&P 500 2,450. I'll round down 453. It's 0.46. Dow was up almost 145. NASDAQ just yesterday up 87. S&P 500 up 20. We'll I know you don't sweat the day to day because you can't, because you're a long-term, planner, but these numbers have never been seen before. I think it's worth at least taking a minute to share your thoughts. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away. This portion of our program brought to us in part by the official, the exclusive golf club for the Hurley in the Morning program, Harbor Pines Golf Club and Estates, owned by the legendary Gerwicks family, 500 St. Andrews Drive. It's beautiful out. The greens are waiting, and they have great deals. And it even gets better if you use your digital device and go to the website, harborpines.com. Please do this. I want to save you 15% every time you golf. You love to play. I will tell you, our 117 golfers were raving at the condition of the course. It is magnificent. The greens, the entire course, beautifully, beautifully manicured. Senior Golf Mondays are in effect. Ladies' Night Mondays. Play and Eat Wednesdays. HP Skins Thursdays. 9 and Dine Sundays, and save that green. See you on the course. Remember, book on the website, harborpines.com. Go to the promo code box, type in HARRY, Harry, and you'll save 15% on the spot. Shop online as well. They have online deals, harborpines.com. You can purchase gift certificates, other online specials, and remember, book a tee time. And the hyperlink is right there. Just click right on Book a Tee Time. And remember, put the promo code Harry. Not only does it make me look good, because they say, wow, look at all these people that are putting the promo code Harry, but it saves you 15%, which is substantial. We'll be back with Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. The Malamut Group can be reached at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office at 609-383-2010 for all of your financial planning needs. We'll be back with Chuck in 60 seconds.
Who's the most listened to afternoon talk show host in South Jersey? It's Sean Hannity on WPG Talk Radio 104.1. Sean tells it like it is.
I'm so sick of the media. They're basically all opinion now. And their opinion is they hate Donald Trump. They're throwing every bit of paper against the wall, hoping something sticks.
South Jersey's #1 afternoon talk show host is Sean Hannity. Weekdays 3 to 6 on WPG Talk Radio 104.1.
Gilda's Club South Jersey's second annual Dragon Boat Festival is coming to Lake Lenape Mays Landing from 8:30 till 5, Saturday, July 15th. And it's a fantastic opportunity for vendors. Get business and product exposure over a full day from an expected crowd of over 1,500 people and generate immediate cash profits while helping Gilda's Club South Jersey, where individuals and families impacted by cancer receive free support, education, and hope. The $150 vendor's fee supports Gilda's Club. Call 609-926-2699 for an application.
Hi, it's Mark Levin. Join me at 6 this evening. Now back to the mayor of the morning, Harry Hurley, on WPG Talk Radio 104.1, South Jersey's talk station.
Thank you very much. 35 minutes past the hour, we continue with Chuck Malamut. Chuck, I don't need to repeat them. They're all basically highs, especially the Dow Jones and the other indices. What are your thoughts about record after record after record that keeps being set? Where'd my main man go? Hold on. He should be here. There you are. Yeah, it was weird. I had you connected, but it just didn't connect right. Now we hear you, Chuck.
We're good. So I think, Harry, what's been happening, and this is actually very healthy for the market, as we're hitting new highs in the various indices, we continue to see rotation out of one sector into another. And I think most recently what happened, if you remember, I think it was on June the 9th, not too long ago, where there was a 3% sell-off one day alone with the NASDAQ. And what was happening is that the funds were flowing from I don't want to use the word overheated, but the better performing, marketplace, that being the NASDAQ and that being growth, into more of the other sectors of the market that have not fared very well this year, energy, telecom, and financials. And so buying more value and less growth. And if you recall, there was a lot written over the weekend after June 9th, the fact that, tech is done, tech is dead, everyone moving money back to value. Well, Harry, something that really did not happen in its entirety. Tech did take a pause, and then you had that announcement of Amazon buying Whole Foods. That obviously was very, very important to the tech world, and so we keep moving onward and upward. So I think that we always talk about sleeping with one eye open. I think you definitely need to do that here. I would not throw caution to the wind. I mean, we are looking, at areas that have gotten beaten up. If you take a look at oil and where oil is trading right now, Harry, it's pretty remarkable at these low levels. Yeah. I mean, you're you're $46, give or take, a barrel of West Texas.
And Chuck, in the past several days, we've seen a dime jump right off the price of a gallon of gasoline.
Yeah, I mean, the price of unleaded is now at $2.37. I'm sorry. Yes, at $2.37.
$2.23 at my $2.23 at my corner store.
Right, but I'm just saying nationally speaking, $2.37. And believe it or not, it was at $2.37 a year ago.
How about that? How about this? Go ahead, finish.
So oil, a year ago goes at $46 a barrel. Moves up to almost 54 at the end of 2016, and is now traded down to about 45. So you're seeing a little bit of dysfunction and a lot of oversupply with oil, and it really hasn't moved gas that much. I mean, think about the price of unleaded: $2.37 a year ago, $2.31 at the end of last year, $2.37 right now. So the fact is that you're seeing these pockets within the marketplace that, everything does not perform in line at the same time is what I'm trying to say. So again, your listeners and those that invest in the equity markets need to clearly understand what they're buying and why they're buying and what the time horizon is of what they're buying. And unfortunately, those seem like they're very simple questions. But Harry, I would say to you, if you pose that question to your listeners, my guesstimate is that probably 70% or better cannot answer those questions.
I know. And Chuck, what about this phenomenon that keeps playing out, and that is that inflation consistently remains low?
Well, so Harry, you think about this for a second. You had a 6% decline in gas prices during the month of May.
Yep.
That resulted in a 0.1% decrease in CPI, the headline CPI. Because really, what is CPI? We could dedicate probably the next 4 hours to that. Core inflation, which does in fact exclude food and energy, increased by just 0.1% last month. So again, the Fed, you think about the position they're in. I mean, they want inflation. With inflation, typically what happens? They have higher interest rates, correct?
Yep.
So now you're at the point in time where you virtually don't have much inflation. You have these mixed economic signals, which ultimately could suggest that confidence, it's very, very important for all of us, could take a step backwards. So think about this for a second. We've had, over the last couple of months, we've had increased softness in the hard economic data, which includes retail sales, automotive production, employment. At the same time, the soft data, which is measured as business confidence, as they look to, grow the economy, accelerate the economy. So what is right here? You have a disconnect. I mean, and when you have these disconnects, it ultimately results in a move in the soft data, suggesting that the confidence, as we know it, could roll back. We could be in line for a setback. So if that happens, then again, it's, all bets are off with respect to the Fed, and most importantly, what's going to happen with equity prices, with the equity markets as we know that. We have been, a believer for quite some time, with respect to equities. And if we kind of stopped it right now, you think about, we said, 8 to 10, maybe 12% would be our move year to date or year for the year. We're virtually there right now. We're over 10 with the S&P, approaching it with the Dow, and, pushing 15 or so with the NASDAQ. But you think about it, you have your average investor, retail and institutional, is still very, very negative with respect, to the markets. And they feel that markets, for the most part, are overvalued. So while equity valuations today are not as attractive as they were a couple of years ago, we think that equities are still a little more attractive. Think about, Harry, how many 10-year treasuries can you buy to 215 and make money?
Yes.
So, we think not only domestically, but we think, internationally as well, that U.S. equities will continue to move in the right direction. But you have to remember, not every marketplace moves onward and upward. And, they don't track the same time, and they don't track for the same amount of time. So this is where I think your listeners need to be very, very astute as to what they're doing and why they're doing it, if that makes any sense.
It makes perfect sense, Chuck, and you say it so very well. How do you, as a high-level financial advisor, and how should the investor out there be processing all of this data, all of this news of mixed economic signals?
Well, I think, Harry, it's just like anything else. Without without a goal, and a dream or a roadmap, you're not going to get accomplished what you want to get accomplished in life. And I kind of bring it back full circle. When you set in motion a decade ago the fact that you wanted to have this early in the morning, golf open, and you kept resetting those goals every year, So, and more times than not, you met those goals or exceeded those goals. So my bet is that you're probably, while you haven't said it and we haven't talked about it, my expectation is you're probably going to come back and say, we got to 50 this year. I want to grow to 60.
Mm-hmm.
And here's how I'm going to get there. I'm going to increase, try to increase contributions from the silent auction. I can't push any more golfers through the event, and I need to be very, very price sensitive with what we're charging. So, and those are just a couple of the data points.
Yes, exactly.
And, you and I really haven't really chatted about that. I know you think about it, but this is what your listeners should be thinking about when it comes to their plan.
Yep.
Whether it's retirement, whether it's educational funding for, their child or their grandchild or a friend or a relative. But
Chuck, is so interesting what you say, because just on the issue of the economies of scale, the price points, entry point for the Hurley in the Morning charity, for the first probably 7, 8 years, we never raised the price. We came of age, as you know, you've been with us from the beginning and our financial consultant and advisor. We kept it at the same price for the first 7, 8 years. Then we raised it $25 per player. Then when we moved to a more upscale facility, we raised it again, another $25. So there were no increases for 7, 8 years, 2 increases in 2 years, and I don't plan on increasing it next year. So I do plan on doing some things like we added $10,000 in revenue because we started the silent auction at our annual April dinner. And I know you didn't sign up for this last point, but I'm going to say it anyhow. And we're going to look at a few other things that we can do during the year that will help us drive to the bottom line. We've cut our expenses. We're always doing that. We keep them at the bare minimum. No one gets a salary, so there's nothing like that. A lot of charities pay people, and we don't reimburse anybody that does something. You just do it. You don't get reimbursed. There's no reimbursements. So we drive to the bottom line that way. But we are mindful of, I don't want to increase another $25. Right now, a player plays for $200. It's a lot of money. They get a great day. They get a great event, but we're going to try to keep that the same. Let me take this comment from our Wharton School master's degree pal, Kirk Conover, to you, Chuck. Tapering the Fed's balance sheet increases interest rates. We see that. And shrinks the money supply. I don't think anybody can deny that, layperson or expert alike. Both are brakes on the economy, so we are in uncharted waters due to the size of the Fed's portfolio. Does Chuck believe that Fed Chair Yellen has the skills to pull this off? Because that is what's happening, Chuck.
Harry, it most certainly is, and I guess being the eternal optimist, I want to say that she and the committee have the ability to navigate through, the water, so to speak. But, you think about if something doesn't go right, and there's a lot that can go the wrong way, then she's going to be held accountable pretty much like, previous Fed chair people. So we are in, I think the fact that, Harry, you have the bond market, basically, I don't want to use the word, but, if that yield curve gets inverted, and right now you think about it and you look, with your short rates, your intermediate term rates being very, very close, and that curve being flat. If you go inverted here, what happens?
Recession.
What happens? So the question is, and I'll leave it. I'll leave your listeners sort of with a cliffhanger, and we can come back to it next week. Who's right? Is it the bond market? Is it the stock market? And how can your listeners and investors, basically be able to take advantage of that and have their portfolio grow in an effort to maximize their return, to minimize their risks, and achieve their goals?
Let me throw a wicked twist at you on your way out the door. Could they both be right, or are they mutually exclusive?
No, I don't think they both can be right.
I don't either. Just thought I'd ask.
I don't want to say who's going to be right, but my sixth sense is that I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Fed, is increasing rates, in an effort to ultimately decrease rates, if that makes any sense.
Wow. That I didn't see that coming, what you just said. Wow. Why do a dopey exercise such as that? So you give me 100 today before you leave, and then I'll give you the 100 back next week. I mean, what are we doing? We're loan. They're now a loan shark operation.
No.
With no interest rates. I mean, with no compounding daily interest.
No, Harry, you think about this. The Fed had nowhere to go. They had no ammo left.
Well, I'll tell you what they could have done, Chuck. I think the first 25 basis points, then a little while later, the second one, they seem to be approaching the willingness and have an appetite to sort of go in hyper warp drive, even if they're not going to be big increments. It doesn't matter if you do 4 at 25 basis points, that's a full point, or whether you did less than that and did it all at once. It seems like they really have an appetite to keep raising interest rates. I personally don't think that's a great idea right now, especially when we're sort of returning to normalcy as opposed to the prior 8 years, which are without precedent. I mean, with no movement in rates and anemic GDP and no policies in place to really incentivize employers and growth. And it looks like, why would you put the brakes on right when you've got the engine really, cooking? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, the one thing about the markets, Harry, and we've been doing this a long time, oftentimes do not make sense as things are happening.
Yep.
But then as you sort of go out, 3, 5, 10 years, it all makes a lot of sense. I will disagree with you a little bit. I don't think we're in those hyper sensitive times where you're raising rates. I mean, that reminds me of when Alan Greenspan was at the helm.
Yeah, it was terrible.
And you saw.
By the way, never, this is my words, not yours, Chuck, never did someone ever in my lifetime do a worse job and get more credit for being absolutely perfect and brilliant. I've never seen anything like it.
Harry, I'll reserve my judgment.
I know.
So with that being said, unfortunately, I do have to jump.
I know you do, Chuck. Good to be with you, my man.
I will see you next week. Okay?
Look forward to it. Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Take care. Don't forget those cookies.
No. We will not. We want you to have them fresh.
Okay. Thank you. I'll see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to the exclusive financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut, the Malamut Group at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office, 609-383-2010. Allow Chuck to introduce to you his perfected concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation. Our final break this hour. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes, a closing segment straight ahead. If you want to jump in, wide open forum until the top of the hour. 609-407-1450 phone lines are open. Coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Dr. Mark Newkirk. And I'm so excited. Usually we're talking about, the care of your pets, and we can still do that. If you have a question and you want to call the doc, by all means. But we are going to be talking about this incredible trip to Africa that Dr. Newkirk is embarking upon. It's like George Plimpton or something. He's going everywhere. It's incredible.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
Our bodies are like a car. As we age, the parts start to wear out, but there are ways to help preserve them. And here to tell us about those is Dr. Alvin Ong, orthopedic surgeon with the Rothman Institute.
Thanks, Robin. I think that as we age, we need to continue to move. So exercise and keeping an ideal weight is very, very important. But the critical factor is to preserve ourselves. And we are living longer and longer lives. And so if you are going to wear things out, you want to make sure that you wear out through the rest of your life. And so when you pick exercises to do or activities that you want to engage in, it should be age-specific or age-appropriate. And I think safety is the most important thing.
All right. Thanks so much, Dr. Alvin Ong of the Rothman Institute. And I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Atlantic Care. Healthcare you can believe in.
This is Harry Hurley, and I'm with the Mayor, Charles Kane, owner and operator of the Auto Plaza, Egg Harbor Township. Mayor, tell your listeners who are looking for a car, why should they choose the Auto Plaza?
Harry, it's our full-service department selection and hassle-free financing alternatives that have set us apart for over 17 years. Over the years, we've been the recipient of many sales and service awards, as well as receiving an A-plus rating with the Better Business Bureau. It's been a real honor for us. We are now serving a second generation of sales and service customers. Stop in today. You're going to love our staff and experience what makes us different.
For all of your automobile service, parts, and sales needs, call the Auto Plaza at 609-646-2447. That's 609-646-2447. And visit us on the World Wide Web at myautoplaza.com.
The Auto Plaza at English Creek. Roll with Mr. Tire.
Do you like to work hard, have fun, and travel? If the answer is yes, then we want you! North American Midway Entertainment is looking for responsible yet adventurous people to join us for the 2017 Carnival season. Apply today to become an amusement ride operator or concession worker with no previous experience required. Transportation, uniforms, and housing, all at no cost to the employee. Be a part of the largest traveling outdoor amusement park in the world. Apply today at www.namidway.com.
Hi everybody, this is Chad Stewart here, of Chad and Jeremy, no less, and certainly no more. And you're listening to Hurley in the Morning. Oh, Hurley in the Morning. Oh, I like that one. Yes, I like that one. It's kind of early. Early? One should always make the most of one's name. Very good, I like it.
And when the rain beats against my window pane, I'll think of summer days again and dream of you.
Hurley in the Morning! Approaching 57 minutes past the hour. Joining us next hour is Dr. Mark Newkirk. Let me give you a little peek into tomorrow morning. It's going to be very, very interesting. Possibly former Assemblyman Tom Foley for the first part of the 7 o'clock hour. That's tentative. This is confirmed, though. Your Atlantic County Executive, Dennis Levinson, from 7:35. Actually, probably we're going to go to break a little bit early, probably about 7:30 until 8 o'clock. We have Kathy Kelsey returning. If you were with us yesterday, it was an extraordinary conversation. I've had so much email that I really can't even keep up with it, just on the topic of the Atlantic County Animal Shelter, and people with extremely passionate emails and photos and all kinds of stuff that I've been getting. We short-circuited that, although we did more than I had originally promised. But there were so many calls, there was so much interest about it that we continued it into the 8 o'clock hour yesterday, which should have been Atlantic County Executive Danny Levinson, and he had a scheduling conflict, so we rescheduled him for tomorrow. I mean, it was just incredible. And then Governor Christie called in, and so we shifted gears completely, but then I left open that we would return with Kathy Kelsey because I spoke with her briefly. I told her the governor was on and there was just nothing we could, do to continue our conversation, but that I would like to do it Wednesday in the 8 o'clock hour, and Kathy immediately accepted. So we'll be doing that. If you were with us, no description is even required. The questions are fast and furious and probative and accusatory. I mean, it's just like incredibly hot talk on the issue of the Atlantic County Animal Shelter. And then in the 9 o'clock hour, so we know that will only be able to last an hour tomorrow, even if we wanted it to go longer, because we have Frank Neal, the all-season solar radio program. And then guess what I get to do? I do this several times a year. I get to be the chauffeur for the legendary Ed Hurst and Don P. Hurley. As in Hurley 1, I take them to the city of brotherly love. I'm bringing a surprise that they don't even know that I'm bringing. In fact, Ed and Don don't know it. Certainly the leadership and the great team at the Broadcast Pioneers of Philadelphia, they don't know it. But I definitely come bearing gifts tomorrow. Not only will I be there, and Ed is a part of the panel discussion that's going to be taking place at tomorrow's luncheon at the Bala Country Club in Pennsylvania. So we're looking forward to that. Busy week. Sad to say that Friday in the evening would be the initial services, the viewing for Super Fred Nichols, and then there'll be another opportunity Saturday morning, and then the actual funeral service itself thereafter. So Friday and Saturday this week with Fred. And Dr. Newkirk is standing by. He's on deck. We have quite an hour. I just can't wait to talk to Dr. Newkirk about his trip to Africa.
104.1 WPGG Atlantic City, WSJO 104.9 HD2 Egg Harbor City. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now.
Is it a preview of 2018? I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
I feel very, very optimistic about today.
Republican Karen Handel hoping to fend off a Democratic attempt to flip a red House seat blue in Georgia's 6th congressional district.
Republicans are motivated. They do not want someone who lives outside of the district coming in and representing them.
Democrat John Ossoff has raised a lot of money from outside the state. The $50 million spent and all makes it the most expensive House race ever.